So we're going to take a page out of the playbook of David Letterman here and Wayne Dyer, and let's talk about the top 10. Our top 10 reasons why people tell themselves that they're not ready to train more intelligently or to do the right things nutrition wise or recovery wise, or why they're not picking up books, why they're not reaching out to coaches that are at the highest level, why when we sometimes come into contact with somebody and we go through an interviewing process with them or an application process with them, and what goes through the heads of a lot of people when it starts to sound a little too complicated or maybe more involved than they can understand. And unfortunately, this is usually a disconnect. And then here are the things that the people have to say in their head. A lot of times the first one is always money for most people. It's always I don't know if I can afford that. But can you afford an injury? Can you afford the lost time for competition and training? Can you afford the downtime? Can you afford the perception of weakness if you're getting recruited? Can you afford all that stuff? Because if you're not training the most intelligently, by doing all the different things that we do, where we're looking at your compensations, we're looking at your distortions, your disintegrations, we're paying attention to the things you do well. If you're not paying attention to all those things, then you're not optimizing your training. And what ends up happening is you lose money other ways. So number two is, we'll hear people say, I've got a crazy schedule. It's so unpredictable. I don't know when I can actually get over to the gym, or I don't know when I can get to a gym, or I don't know when I can do what I need to do for training, or it's just too chaotic. We're just going to have to wait until whatever, summer's over or winter's over or fall's over, or my whatever the situation. That disempowerment, or the disempowering belief in that situation ends up being the fact that they don't understand that it's when you don't have time that you need to get organized and find time to train properly, appropriately, and how to recover, and how your nutrition should be, and how to track your rest and recovery, and how to optimize yourself. Because if you're not training, you're not doing what you need to do, then chances are you're probably on at least some level falling apart a little bit. You're depreciating, so to speak. So hopefully that answers that one. 3, always traveling. We're always traveling. We're not going to have time to do the training. Okay, so for starters, I start off by telling everybody, first and foremost, we're consultants and we work with people to help them develop plans where they can have their athlete empowered to train anywhere. You can train in a hotel room. I can give you stuff to do so that you're ready for competition the following day. I mean, Michael Jordan trained while he was on the road. So if you're that special that you're better than Michael Jordan, or you don't think you have to do as much as he does, or LeBron James or Kobe Bryant, or you name it, you know, if that's the situation, then life is going to be difficult for you. Traveling and training they go together hand in hand. So we work together with our clients to set up programs that they can do at the hotel, or at a campsite, or at their camp, or at wherever. If you have a 4x4 space, you can train. The fourth one, I'm always playing, I'm always competing. I'm not going to have time. I have 10 games in 11 days. Okay, well, it's specifically in those situations when you must make sure that you keep up a minimal amount of training. And that could mean flexibility stuff. It could mean just straight up recovery. It could mean massage. It might mean a multitude of different things, but it's in those situations that you absolutely need a partner to make sure that you stay at your peak and that you stay on point. Next, I already have a coach, a trainer, or a guide, a professional, whatever. All right, well, one of the other things that we do is we work as almost a liaison, or somebody who oversees what's going on with a plan, so to speak, like underwriting a plan, so that you can have a training program already, and then we will sit and we will review whether or not it's as appropriate as it should be, if it's on point with where you are now, if it's addressing your current situation, your current injuries, and all of the above. So just because you have a trainer, you don't fire your trainer, you don't fire your coach. We're doing stuff with you to take a look from outside the box and see whether or not you're doing all the things that you need to be doing to optimize again. So many of our athletes have strength coaches they work with. They have other trainers. They have sports coaches. They have personalized coaches. They have position coaches. 6, they're too young or they're too old. So there's no such thing as too young or too old for development. There's such thing as inappropriate times to train with particular modalities or methods. That's a different story. But there's no such thing as too young to learn movement patterns. If you're walking, you're training. Okay, so that's an important thing to know. Next, they're not sure how serious their athlete is or how serious they are. Well, just because you're not serious doesn't mean you're already doing something. You're already competing. You're already training. So, I mean, it makes no sense to not give yourself the resources that you need just because you're not sure if you're trying to be a professional athlete. You could just be trying to learn about your body and how it works. I mean, that's not against the law, and it's something that probably should be taught in school, but just it really isn't on the level that we're talking about learning. Or if you're a parent, like, to be able to understand how to help your child and take care of them and be a good supporter is priceless, I would say. Number 8, can't because I'm injured or sick. That's exactly when you should start, when you're injured or sick. So you can't start training then, but you can start learning then. We can do assessments then. We can do research then. We can find out maybe why you're injured, why you're sick. There's some sort of disempowerment in that equation. Probably there's a 99% chance of that. It wasn't just a fluke, I'd imagine, that you were sick or that you were injured. So there's some sort of like mess up in your loop there, in your cycle. I can't get to a gym, or we don't have a gym. Again, you don't need a space to train as much as you do. You don't need a specific space to train as much as you just do a space. And then you let us know what you have available, and then we adjust and make the workout appropriate to whatever you have access to. Next, well, you'll have somebody say, well, thanks, we appreciate it, we're all set. The person that says we're all set, the number of people that there's a direct correlation to that say they're all set, and then when I ask them, well, what did you do at the last ID camp? How did you do at the last showcase? How did you do at the last competition? How did you do at the last tournament? What did you do at the last match? What did your last practice look like? How did you evaluate it? And they'll say, well, then the next thing you know, you find out they say that the person was tired, the person was injured, the referee really stuck it to them, the coach wasn't prepared, their teammates underperformed, nobody's on their level, so it's difficult for them to compete. Well, or they went up an age group, or they had to go up a weight class, or you fill in the blank. There's 8 million different excuses that these people are being disempowered by, and usually it's the parent that starts this mindset formation, and we call it, or I like to call it, it reminds me of the MiG situation from Top Gun, and it's a mindset of inverse growth. And I think we'll get into that later, but basically it's a situation where they're trying to make the kid feel better. Actually, they're trying to make themselves feel better, and then the kid adopts this philosophy, and then it just creates a victimization loop and blame and a lack of accountability. And when that happens, unfortunately, if you're not responsible because you're not accountable, you can't change stuff. You're a victim, and as a victim, you're stuck. And if you're stuck, you can't get out of that situation unless you take 100% responsibility for it. Without 100% responsibility for it, you're always going to be in a situation where you have to rely on other people to help you get out. And if that's the situation specifically in performance, you're in a bad situation. So, and for those who say, can you give me a guarantee? Well, I mean, obviously, if you've seen any of our videos online, you've seen our wall of honor. You can just call it a wall of proof. I mean, the proof is literally written on the wall.